Imagine waking up one day to find your life stolen by the person you trusted most. My sister took everything from me, and for 5 long years I was trapped in her shadow. This is my story of betrayal and survival. For as long as I could remember, my sister and I were inseparable. We shared everything. Childhood secrets whispered in the dark, clothes swapped without hesitation, dreams imagined side by side. She was my closest friend, my confidant, the person I trusted more than anyone else in the world. But beneath the surface of that unbreakable bond, something dark and twisted was quietly unfolding, something I never saw coming. It all started with small things, barely noticeable at first. My social media accounts began acting strangely. Messages sent that I never typed, friend requests I didn't make, posts I never shared. When friends asked if I was okay, or warned me about odd behavior online, I brushed it off. Maybe it was a glitch, I told myself. Maybe I was being paranoid. But deep inside, a knot of unease grew tighter and tighter, choking me with every passing day. Then came the call that shattered my world. A debt collector, voice cold and impatient, demanding payment for a loan I never took out. My heart pounded in my chest. Someone had stolen my identity. But it wasn't some faceless stranger. It was my sister. I couldn't believe it at first. The person I loved and trusted most in the world was the one who betrayed me in the worst possible way. I reached out to her, desperate for answers, for help, for some kind of explanation. Instead, I was met with coldness, denial, and cruelty. When I confronted her, she laughed in my face, told me I was paranoid, that I was imagining things. But I knew the truth, and it terrified me. For 5 years, she quietly lived as me, stealing my identity piece by piece. She opened bank accounts in my name, ran up debts I never authorized, sabotaged my friendships and relationships, and even applied for jobs pretending to be me. She built a secret life on lies and deception, while I watched helplessly from the sidelines, my real life slipping through my fingers. Every day was a nightmare. I felt invisible, trapped in a shadow of my own existence. Watching her destroy my reputation, ruin my relationships, and manipulate the people around me was unbearable. I was living a double life, one that wasn't mine, and one that was slowly disappearing. But I refused to be broken. I began to fight back. Piece by piece, I collected evidence, screenshots, emails, text messages, documents, proof of her betrayal. It was a painful, isolating journey. Friends doubted me. Family avoided the issue. I was left alone to face the storm. One day, I discovered her ledger. It was a meticulously kept record of every false identity she had created, every secret she had stolen, every lie she had told. It was the key I needed to reclaim my life and expose her deceit. Armed with this proof, I confronted her again. Not with fear, but with strength. I demanded the truth and the chance to reclaim what was stolen from me. The road ahead was difficult. I faced disbelief, anger, and heartbreak. But I was determined. Because sometimes the greatest betrayal comes from the person you love most, and surviving that betrayal takes a strength you never knew you had. This was only the beginning of a long journey, but I was ready. Ready to fight for my name, my reputation, and my life. I didn't go home right away after seeing Ava. Instead, I sat in my car across from her new house, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Through the window, I could see her silhouette moving from room to room, occasionally glancing at her phone, completely unaware that I was there, watching. Memories of our past clawed their way back, uninvited. I remembered the day I proposed, standing under a cheap string of fairy lights on the balcony of our first apartment, because I couldn't afford a grand gesture. She'd said yes through tears, promising we'd build our dreams together, brick by brick. But now, the woman who once swore we were a team was in another man's arms. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the photos I'd taken earlier. Grainy, zoomed-in shots of her with him. It wasn't just the embrace. It was the way she looked at him, with that soft, secret smile she used to save for me. My chest tightened, but my mind was already working. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. It was about control. I had kept a low profile since the divorce. Everyone assumed I was just another man who'd lost everything. They didn't know that my loss was a calculated illusion. The house we lived in, still in my name. The business she thought was sold off, quietly thriving under a different company title. The man she was with, a mid-level contractor who'd unknowingly taken a step into a minefield. I watched her turn off the lights in the living room and disappear upstairs. That's when I started the car. It wasn't time to act. Not yet. The best revenge was patient, almost surgical, and I intended to make every cut count. The next day, I made a casual call to an old friend, Ethan, a private investigator who owed me a favor. I didn't tell him the full story, just that I needed everything on Daniel Hayes, the man Ava was now with. By evening, Ethan had already sent me a preliminary file. Unpaid debts, a messy breakup with his ex, and a history of shady subcontracting deals. Exactly the kind of dirt I could use. But digging into Daniel was just the surface. My true focus was Ava. She'd kept her distance since the divorce, probably out of guilt, but I knew her patterns. She couldn't resist flaunting her better life on social media. I created a fake profile and followed her. Within a week, I knew her new routines, her favorite hangouts, and even the boutique gym where she had a membership. The irony? She had no idea the owner of that gym, yes, the very one she posted about, was also my silent business partner. Every time she swiped her card there, a part of her monthly fee went straight into my pocket. By the end of the week, my plan had taken shape. First, I'd undermine Daniel's credibility in her eyes without ever confronting him directly. Then, I'd remind Ava, subtly, painfully, that she'd traded gold for dust. And finally, I'd make my presence known in a way she couldn't ignore. Late Friday night, I parked a few streets away from her house. The neighborhood was quiet, save for the occasional hum of passing cars. I slipped a small envelope into her mailbox. No note, no explanation, just a photo of her and Daniel from that cafe, with the faint shadow of me reflected in the glass behind them. It wasn't enough to scare her. Not yet. But it was enough to make her uneasy, to remind her that someone was watching. Driving away, I felt the familiar rush, not of love, but of control returning to my hands. She thought she'd written me out of her story, but what she didn't realize was that I was the one holding the pen now. I stood there, letting their laughter echo, letting them think they'd won. If I had learned anything from years of being underestimated, it was this. Power works best when it's silent until it isn't. My silence made them confident, and confidence always makes fools careless. The truth was, everything they thought they controlled was already in my hands. While they whispered in corners and made late-night phone calls plotting their next move, I had been meeting with lawyers, gathering documents, and, most importantly, speaking with the one person they didn't know I could sway, the man who signed their paychecks. When I finally made my move, it was during the very moment they felt untouchable, the reading of my father's will. My stepbrother leaned back in his chair with a smug grin, probably imagining himself the new king of the family empire. My stepmother looked like she was already redecorating in her head. I let them bask in their fantasy for just a moment longer. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and began reading. The room grew still, the only sound being the steady click of the clock on the wall. Every word that followed wiped the smiles clean off their faces. My father hadn't left the company, the estate, or the fortune to either of them. It was all under my name. Every property, every share, every asset. My stepmother gasped so loudly it sounded rehearsed. My stepbrother tried to protest, but the lawyer, with the calm of a man who had seen too many family dramas, slid the signed documents across the table. It's legally binding, he said. I looked at them both, my voice calm but sharp enough to cut the air. You should have been careful who you underestimated. Now, I'll give you 30 days to move out of my house. Their faces went pale. The victory wasn't just in what I had taken. It was in watching them finally realize that the person they had mocked and ignored had been holding the winning card the whole time. As I walked away, I didn't need to slam the door or raise my voice. The silence I left behind was loud enough. Thank you for tuning in. Please like this video if it resonated with you, and subscribe to Family Betrayal Confessions for more real stories of family secrets, survival, and strength. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new confession. Your support means everything. Thank you for being part of this journey.